What is going on, guys? So we just saw a film called The Other Side of the Door. This is my friend Matthew Brando. Matthew runs a YouTube channel of his own. He loves movies. You also review toys.
Yes.
And you're one of my best friends.
Yes.
And we were going to go see this film for fun. We didn't really have any plans to review The Other Side of the Door. And then we saw it. And we decided to review it for you.
Yeah.
And the honest truth is, I can't really think of a way to review this movie without actually just delving into everything. Up front, this movie's horrible. It's ass, it's balls, it's everything that you could possibly think of that's terrible. I hated this movie.
I will say it has some positive, redeeming qualities. You absolutely hate it. At the beginning, I started getting into it. I started to like it, and then for me, it's like, this is good, and then you start laughing out loud. I'm like, yeah, okay, he hates it too. It's okay to laugh out loud now.
The basic plot of this movie is a mother and a father are living in Mumbai, India. They've lost their son in a tragic accident, and when she learns from her housekeeper that there is a temple somewhere that's abandoned, that maybe she can go to this temple and communicate with her son for just one more time, but she's like, don't open the door! There's a door that separates the human world from the dead world, and you're not supposed to open it. You can hear the dead's voices, but if you open it, you're basically screwed. Guess what she does?
Opens the door?
And the son comes into the real world and starts possessing everyone and killing people. And look, okay, we've seen movies like this before. Yeah. There was part of it that was slightly original. I was like, okay, it takes place in India. That's different. Yes. I haven't seen this culture in a supernatural horror film in a while. Mm-hmm. That came out in America.
Right.
So that was kind of cool. The best part of the movie I actually thought was their housekeeper. From here on, let's just get into full spoilers. If you wanted to see The Other Side of the Door, I'm sorry. There are so many things that happen throughout this entire runtime that make no sense. It's one of those things where it's a supernatural movie, so the writers and the director just thought, well, hey, we can just put whatever, and they'll just believe it because ghosts. Like, for instance, there's a scene where they're sitting in a restaurant, and they're eating food, and all of a sudden, like, cockroaches are just crawling out of the walls and in her food and everywhere. And there are people, like, going like this with cockroaches in the restaurant. And then, of course, in a split second, it all disappears, and she's just like...
Yeah, typical cliche bullshit.
The funniest part of this movie for me, okay, it's not technically funny because it's a tragic accident, but I laughed my ass off, okay? They're walking through the street, the mother and her daughter, and they approach a car, and there's an accident. There's this man crushed underneath the car, and he's laying there, and there's EMS workers and cops and people looking at him, and he's all, like, dead, and then all of a sudden he just goes... There's no explanation.
No, it's crazy because this film had so much potential, but it does stupid shit like that.
Yeah.
Where it has a jump scare, and then you laugh at it. You're not supposed to laugh at it, and the jump scare actually has some potential, like, scary, it sends chills down your spine, but you just laugh at it. It does the wrong thing.
The scene where the mother is walking into the room, and she's like, hey, Lucy, to her daughter, and she just turns around and goes, BOOM!
How many times are jump scares just like this, hollow face with black eyes? Just like, come on, I've seen this a billion times already.
Like a broken, open
Yes!
There was one audience member in our theater who also had some things to say. There was an older guy sitting in the front, and this is the second best part of the movie for me. The little girl is in her room talking to somebody, and the mother's approaching the door and opens the door, and the little girl just stops and goes, oh, hi, Mommy. And she's like, oh, who are you talking to? My dolls. The older guy was just like, yeah. Just full out loud, yeah.
Yeah.
When the boy starts haunting their house, all of their plants die. All of the fish die. And what character doesn't seem to notice this?
The dad?
Yeah, the dad. Because he's just like the dad. He'll call and be like, hey, I have to stay at work for like 2 more hours. Oh, good, because the writers didn't know what else to do with him.
Yeah, exactly. He's kind of just thrown away.
He never noticed that every plant and every tree surrounding their house literally dies, turns brown.
And the 2 birds.
And their birds.
But somehow the dog survives.
The dog survives for a while. Towards the end of the movie, the little girl has the knife, and she's now become possessed by this boy, and she's wandering around. The little girl is now possessed, and this acting... It's not the greatest, guys. It's really not. And it was cringeworthy and sad. The dad comes into the kitchen, and she has the knife and everything, and the dad's not believing that this little girl's possessed. The dad is like, no, my wife's crazy. And the little girl just goes... with the knife, and it get like this really awkward close-up of the dad just like, ugh.
Can we talk about the little shaman people? Like, that actually started the downfall for me for this movie. I'm like, what the hell is this? I was like, please don't play out the rest of the movie, and it does. How about this? I think the most hilarious part is we have the mom and we have the little girl, and she's putting she's putting the birds in the water to go away because they died. And then, Mommy, you know about that guy over there? The shaman guy. Oh, watch out for that guy. I see him, honey. No, the guy right in front of you. And then, like, what the?
That's jump scares for you. This movie is filled with the cliches. Every time someone goes like this, there's always like some like dead face, like The Ring. Horror cliches 101. Do we have birds flying out of holes accompanied by jump scares? Yes, we do. Do we have a creepy old, like, deformed lady crawling on the ground with hair covering her face and she's like,
horrible? That was horrible.
Yes, we of course have that, because every horror movie now has to have that. Do we have the turning around and then seeing like a deformed mouth, open face? Yes, we have it. It's everything.
Family pet dies.
Family pet dies. The animal can of course see everything.
Of course,
the child can see everything, and the adults are just like, oh, this is kind of funny and interesting. And
oblivious.
Yeah, this movie is nothing but cliches. It started out with a possibly interesting idea and just divulged into the laziest writing cliches you could think of. And the biggest one for me was the dad character. He's just there, and the writers literally can't think of anything to do with him, so they just, every scene he's like, hey, I'm gonna be a couple more hours at work, see you later. Oh good, now we have some alone time in this creepy house.
And the mom is actually pretty crazy herself. It's a little bit original, but it just lost me, where she's in the dead son's little bedroom, and then, oh, good night, Oliver. I guess, Oliver's starting to come back to life or whatever. Boom! A book falls from the bookshelf. Oh, it's the Jungle Book, his favorite book. And then a chair comes up. Oh, I'll read to you, honey. Sits down and starts reading him.
I know.
I was like, this is crazy. What am I watching right here? Why did we decide to go to this movie?
Yeah, we drove like a half an hour to go see this movie because it's only opening in like 500 theaters. And we were just gonna like have fun and see it, and it was so bad we had to review it essentially. I hate this movie. I really do. The acting is terrible. The best performance in the movie is their housekeeper. The story's cliche. The direction is just there. It's very like, hey, let's just handheld this. It's almost like it felt like every other scene was like, let's just do it handheld.
Yeah, it's like they didn't really care.
Yeah. The ending is the worst. I guess the mother decides to like trade places with the dead kid and like talks to like the creepy lady who goes like, blah.
Oh, we finally get to see your face. Oh.
Guess what she does, of course? She goes, blah, blah. That's the horror face. Blah.
Yeah.
And I guess she switches places with the dead son somehow.
Yeah, she sacrifices herself.
Yeah, I don't know exactly actually what happened, because then we cut to her in like the dead world, and you hear the dad has now gone to the temple and is trying to communicate with her, and she's like, no,
don't open the door.
And then you see the door kind of go like that, and then it ends, and you're like, wait, so what is she afraid about? Is she afraid of that now she has the opportunity to haunt the real world now and
possess her remaining family members?
But she like knew, like she understood what was happening, and she was like, no. So what is she worried about?
Yeah, this film breaks its own rules a lot of the times. Like when the housekeeper says you can burn your belongings of the child, and then everything will go away, and then they burn the belongings, and the movie continues. Like, what the hell? You just said that this was going to work, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, what was the point of that?
It's all bad. It's really bad. It's filled with nothing but cliches. It has some really laugh out loud moments, but the movie isn't worth seeing. I'd rather watch Gods of Egypt 1,000 more times than see this movie again. Like I said, it's one of those movies that doesn't explain any of its crazy supernatural stuff. You're just supposed to be like, oh, it's just a ghost movie, so everything just is fine. Like, why'd the guy who got run over go like this and look at the lady in broad daylight in front of 100,000 people?
Right.
Why'd that happen?
See, the difference between like Gods of Egypt and this movie is this movie's so torturous to watch compared to Gods of Egypt, you can actually laugh at it.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Hopefully you have like an older man in the theater who goes, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Whenever anything happens. So I'm personally going to give The Other Side of the Door, which by the way should have just been called Beyond the Door or something that wasn't such a long ass title, an F.
I'm gonna 1 out of 10.
1 out of 10? Yeah, I mean basically that's an F. So don't see the movie. Like I said, Not worth your time or your money. It's a terrible film, but it did have some laughs. Thank you, Matt, for joining me on this video.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Definitely check out Matt's channel. Matt does a lot of toy reviews. He does a lot of in-depth discussion on film. He loves Jurassic Park, Star Wars.
I love Jurassic Park shit. Glow in the dark.
Oh, nice. Definitely check out Matt's channel. He has a video that he just made that is a really good in-depth analysis of the possibilities that Rocky V had to be a good movie, and I think it's your best video. Okay. I linked that in the description below. Definitely check that out and give him a subscription. I think he's worth your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, as always, guys, for watching. Get Stuckmann next.